Hello, welcome back to the show, and this is a special, for me anyway, special episode because I've got a special guest with me that it's a bit of a famous name in the sports car racing world, if you like, and as a you might recognise him from commentating on the WEC, even the Asian Le Mans series, and he dabbles in a bit of reporting for Daily Sports Car, and that's Graham Goodwin. How are you, sir?
I'm very good. Very good, Ryan. It's good to join you.
Yeah, I was going to say thanks so much for your time. I know you've obviously been busy with like Daily Sports Car, and also recently just finished wrapping up commentating on the previous season of the Asian Le Mans series, which we'll talk about in a bit. But it's a question I ask all my guests all the time. How did your entry on, or how did you start watching motorsport? How did your interest come about?
Well, it goes way, way, way back. I mean, I often say the big intro for me into motorsport was Formula One in the kind of the early mid-70s. I mean, I'm a child of the 60s. One of my most prized possessions, it's in here somewhere, is a little corgi Lotus 72 given to me by my grandmother. And that's what it started with. It started with Formula One. That went through into the 90s, my first marriage, and that was a special thing in our weekends. But realistically, the acceleration into being a real every weekend engaged fan came, oddly enough, as a result of the end of that marriage. And it was looking after my little boy on a weekend, and you get a choice. Am I going to be a dad or am I not? And I was going to be a dad, and we were not going to go and sit at McDonald's and eat Happy Meals. We were going to go off and do some stuff, and we lived reasonably close to Brands Hatch at the time, and so pretty much every couple of weekends we'd go and watch whatever was on, and it really started from there. By 1995, we were spreading our wings a little bit, so we'd come through a period where touring cars were the thing in the super touring era. GT racing was taking off, and in 1995 my son, who would have been 7 at the time, wanted to go to Le Mans to see the McLarens, and so we got on a Page and Moy coach, and that's what we did. Woefully unprepared, absolutely terribly unprepared. Had an absolute whale of a time, and with the exception of 1996, where because of my then day job I couldn't get the leave for Le Mans, I've not missed one since. So we've just been through my 30th, which coincidentally, I'm pretty certain, although I've not done the check I should have done, I think was my 100th 24-hour race, of which 95 I've covered professionally. 5 I've been as a fan, and the other 95 in a variety of means as a TV or radio or writer, I've covered professionally. So it's become pretty all-consuming. I love it more than I can tell you in words. It happened quite quickly. It came at the end of one phase of my then day job, and it picked up the kind of the baton for the career I was trained in, which was as a journalist. Trained as a journalist, didn't initially work as one.
Yes, that was a question I was going to ask as well about your journalism. How did you first get involved in that, and or how did you first become a journalist? Did you go to anything like I don't know, like college or university to get trained?
Well, I think the training is the same training course that I did, or the modern version of it is still around. It's a thing called the NCTJ, the National Council of Training Journalists. And effectively what it was at the time, you were effectively apprenticed to, in my case, a local newspaper. It's a full year on-site course at a variety of colleges around the UK. In my case, I was due to go after a year of practical work to Sheffield Poly or Sheffield Uni, I can't remember. But things changed around 2 weeks before that was all supposed to start. I was going to be doing a year in the newspaper and then the training. And then someone dropped out of a course in Darlington, northeast of England. And at 2 weeks' notice, I got a call from my editor to say, this thing's come up, what do you think? And off I went to Darlington. At the same time, there are seismic changes in the newspaper industry to do with technology. It's all too boring for this thing, but basically what it came down to was the job that I was going to have was not going to be there. So I took my second option. My second option was what was then called fast track into the UK Civil Service, and I spent a better part of 20 hard-working, gruelling, but happy years and very fulfilling years working for the UK government in a variety of departments of state and for a variety of people that people of my age and maybe even a little younger will have heard of. So, very hands-on, doing some, now I think back, astonishing stuff. Everything from, major terrorist incidents, being involved there, trying to bring the Olympics to the UK, came back into that in a later job. All sorts of astonishing stuff that as a, lad in his late teens, early 20s, from a working class family in the northwest of England, it wouldn't be available now. I mean, the timing of my choice was pretty miraculous. And the reality is the skill set that gave me is why I'm sitting here talking to you now.
And talking about the media training to be a journalist as well, did you find, I don't know, when it came to covering, say, maybe sports car, for example, did it prepare you in a way for, say, like if you had to go and interview a driver, or, for example, or report on a race, or do kind of just like reporting sports car racing in general? Did you find it prepared you for that, and you weren't just being, how can I put it, being thrown into the deep end, if you like?
No, I mean there were transferable skills. I mean the interesting part of it is that I straddle multiple technology eras. I learned to type on a typewriter. I as journalists did, and I believe journalists do, learned to write shorthand. I can't do a damn bit of it now, but so all those things were with me. The more pertinent part of it was the framework, the professional framework, the legal side of things, what you can and can't do and can't say, the moral side of things in terms of the way that works. So in terms of me making a determination about the kind of journalist I wanted to be, and more to the point, the way in which I brief everybody that comes to Daily Sports Car about the kind of journalist I want them to be, that absolutely played a part in it. And, there is any of them will tell you, there's a little spiel that I give them when they first turn up through the door, and that involves me telling them how uninterested I am in likes on Twitter, and how I want them to see themselves very much as part of a sport and a business and an industry, that we are not at odds with them. We are a do no harm organisation that basically means they're there as our colleagues and our partners. I don't think we're in an appropriate area of life that for 98% of the time we need to be adversarial. I don't think we do. I think we can get through without doing that. I think we can make a positive contribution to making this niche part of a sport better and better understood, and that's what I aim to do.
And yeah, talking about Daily Sports Car as well, how did the opportunity to join Daily Sports Car come about? Was it kind of, did someone approach you and ask, like, oh, would you be interested in joining Daily Sports Car? We like what you do, or was it something?
Yeah, it goes back before. So DSC has been around since 2002, but before that, in the mid 90s, when I was emerging from my government job, so 98, 99, when I knew I was leaving, and I was interested because, of course, I've got this thing with James, my son, who, by the way, is now knocking 40. Gives you an idea of, how long we've been doing this, which is quite depressing when I think about it. But it's I found on the then still relatively new internet something of an internet pioneer, a guy called Malcolm Cracknell. I started interacting with him. He had a thing at the time called Sports Car World, later Super Sports Car World, and he realised that I was keen. I was one of 3 people he invited to the British GT Media Day. Now that would have been, I want to say, 99 or 2000. One of them became the deputy editor. That's me. One of them became the senior correspondent. That's a guy by the name of Mark Howson, who became later the deputy editor. And then there's a guy called Paul Slinger, who's still around, who was involved and was doing things like Le Mans with us for many, many years. So he was looking for people who were keen and were talented, had something to offer. And we basically just cracked on. From there on in, through a variety of means, anybody that listens to the podcast that is a touring car fan back in the day might remember a short-lived team that ran a couple of Lexus touring cars called Total Motorsport. That became the replacement website with allegedly a reasonable amount of financial backing for it. I became deputy editor of that with Malcolm editing it. The money wasn't there. We'd seen that coming before we had to push the big red button, and got together with two other people. So Malcolm, myself, a guy called John Brooks, famous for most recently for Martin Haven telling the world he was dead. He's not. And also the author of the latest of the 10-year Le Mans annuals, or rather histories. He was the third. And then the fourth was a then British GT driver and owner of a tech company, whose name I'm not going to give, because it turned out he was a bit of a charlatan. So 2002, we had this brand new website. It was a subscription model. And some way into that, 9-10 months into that, we found out someone had their hands in the kitty. And not worse than that, had a catastrophic failure of the IT, which meant that 2002 doesn't exist. So we did it, but it doesn't exist. Rebuilt it. John had to go off and do other things. The other guy clearly wasn't coming back. So at that stage, it was Malcolm, myself, my friend, colleague, David Lord, who's DSC's photographic director, and a fourth silent partner, again, another gentleman driver who'd been a British GT champion, won at Daytona. He's still one of the three owners. Malcolm had to step down 2006-07 with ill health. He's still with us, but in pretty poor health. And at that point, I stepped up as editor, still with a big day job, by the way. That carried on till about 2014. And we have three owners, with Stephen, now the new editor, Stephen Kilby, who joined us at the age of 17 and then full-time from the age of 20. He's been with us over a decade now. RJ O'Connell in the States, Michael Zanavari down under, and now four brand new people on a variety of different contracts as part of DSC Academy, and by the way, more to come. So we've grown rapidly most recently, but how did it happen? Enthusiasm is the honest answer. And I look back now and think, how did I do that? I genuinely don't know how I did that. But I was at that point probably doing 20 to 25 race meetings a year, some in the UK, but many not. And the big change, of course, then came when we got into second decade of the century and into the WC. ILMC first and then WC, when the racing started to go further afield. So, it was a kind of decade and a half of running a day job, and they were all big day jobs, a family, and this, and that's quite the balancing act, I can tell you.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you about that. How do you kind of like balance that? Obviously, you talk about work, and then you have obviously having a family as well. How do you balance that? Say if you've got to go and report on a race, say like somewhere over in Daytona, for example, and then you've obviously say like you've got to go and cover another race, say for example the Asian Le Mans series at say like Dubai, for example. How do you balance that? Is it difficult, or is it just one of those things that you're like, yep, it's part of the job?
The reality now is this is how I earn my living. So I don't have another job. So I own and run the company for Daily Sports Crew. I don't edit it, but I run the company. I've got obviously the TV work, and that will be again WEC this season, ELMS package this season, Asia Le Mans series we've just finished, and there's some other stuff as well that you hear about later in the year. There's a few new projects coming together which are going to be quite interesting on the TV front. And yes, I've got Trudy here at home with the mad dog, and she's astonishing. And it's one of the reasons why I've made very clear to people I am going to stop in 4 years' time. I'll stop at the end of my 65th year, and I'll stop because I owe her that. She's allowed me to do a job and have a career that I've absolutely adored. I'm not stopping anytime immediately soon. 4 years is a long time. But I'm stopping because there's things I want to do more than that. So the answer is, you've got to have people behind you. You've got to be sensible about the way in which you balance the really important stuff, and at times that means you've got to make some very, very tough decisions about what you can and can't do, either personally and or professionally. There's no two ways about it. That can be a tricky set of choices.
Yeah, I think that's a good point you make as well, that if it's if you want to do something that you love, it's you kind of having that support of your family behind you, and like basically if you ask them, is it I guess you've always asked in the past, is it, what do you think, is it okay if I go and do this? Obviously, with having a family, it's kind of you've got to think about that as well. It's maybe not like, say if you're younger, you could turn around and say like, yeah, I'll go to this racing and this racing and that race, and basically like every weekend or whatever. But I guess having that support as well, it kind of it helps you.
At the end of the day, I mean, one of the key parts of our annual ritual, and actually we oddly enough likely do it this evening, is firming up the diary. There is, as with pretty much any family household, there is a diary. It isn't mine, it's Trudy's, and that must be obeyed. And we're now empty nesters apart from the husky. It's just Trudy and I to get sorted. But at the end of the day, it's only fair that we have a balance between the things that I have to do, which are the things I'm contracted to do. There are a number of things that I want to do that I'm not necessarily contracted to doing. And because we've got this transition with this new academy, and part of my job is to mentor these 4 young people, some of them all the way through, in the case of the couple that we've got in North America, to guide through the process that's going to form their contract with us over the next couple of years. There's other things that are kind of coming in. So, as for instance, something came out the woodwork yesterday where there'll be a test in the south of France for a couple of days that otherwise I wouldn't have gone anywhere near it. But now I'm almost certainly going to have to go and do that. It's that balance. And have there been difficult conversations? Yeah, absolutely, there have been difficult conversations, and sometimes those conversations have gone my way. And sometimes you've got to say, actually, you know what, you're absolutely right. Someone else is going to have to go and do that, or we don't take that opportunity. So it is an odd life. It should be a 5-week gap between the Asia Le Mans series and Qatar. But the reality of that is I'm in London for meetings one day this week. I literally rushed from one meeting to catch a plane to go to Italy for 2 days. And then I'm back late Thursday evening from Italy. So my week is actually tomorrow and Friday, because there's not a lot of working time outside of what I'm doing for, in one case, as a writer, and in 2 cases as a TV presenter and content creator at this stage. So you've got to be heads up about where the necessity is for DSC and our position in the marketplace, to be seen as being pretty much an ever-present, but balance that against the fact that we're all human beings, and the last thing you want is to get to the stage where you're getting back, and your absence for a day or so has caused a problem. 99% of the time, it doesn't. There's obviously times when I'm away where things haven't gone great, and what we've got is Grumpy Trudy. Grumpy Trudy, not a good thing, I can tell you right now.
I was going to say.
But the overarching point here, Ryan, is this. I have been extremely lucky that my wife has been an outstanding supporter of what we've been doing with all these endeavours, despite the fact she doesn't like motorsport.
Yeah, and I think as well, having someone that it supports what you do and supports what you do, and basically, yeah. So like you say, it's in a way it makes me glad I'm not a journalism or anything like that, because having to go away all the time, I think it would just, maybe it might just be me. I think it would be not mentally taxing, but more it would probably get to be sometimes not being home or getting not getting a chance to have like downtime, if you like. But
I think
that's just me.
The other thing about it that people overlook is it's absolutely exhausting, and that doesn't get any easier as you get a little bit older. You're dealing with multiple time zones, because even if you've adjusted to the time zone you're on, we're still covering other things on other time zones while we're off our own time zone. So, it's not unusual for us to get very little sleep, and that sleep not to be a particularly high quality. And, being at a race meeting, let's say in Qatar, we're still handling stuff that's coming in back in Europe, in Southeast Asia, in North America, and particularly when you're at those busy times of the season at the start, when the things are coming together quite quickly. So, there have been many a sleepless night or very little sleep. To do that, you need people who are motivated, that have got the right motivation, have got the right knowledge to be able to get things done. And with the team we're building now, I'm extremely confident we're going to do that. It's going to be a very different look to DSC moving forward in terms of the material we produce. All the stuff people like, but a lot more besides. Jonathan Grace joining us, for instance, with his ability with content creation, production, quality assurance, etc., on those kind of things. You'll see a lot more of that as things roll forward. What you've seen at the moment, the little video shorts, etc., I'd say that's about 10 or 15% of what's coming.
And you talk about the Daily Sports Car Academy. How did the idea for that come around? Was it sort of something that you were thinking about for a long time, that basically, if you wanted to bring more people on, you could bring them through something like an academy, train them up, and then once they're trained up, you can send them to like different races, different countries, and that was it something? And also,
it's really
was it
simple.
something you were thinking about to help with the, I don't know if workloads is the right word.
It's so, in general, it's been there in the background for a long time. The specifics was a bit of a lightning bolt. So, in general, I've made the decision quite some time ago that I'm going to stop in 4 years' time. But that has implications. Things have got to be ready. At the moment, if I were to stop the way we were a year and a half ago, business would fold. No doubt about it. So you've got to get a business ready to be handed over. And I will play no part in this business in retirement. There was already an agreement as to what happens with my shareholding in that business. So the answer in terms of the generality of it was that was always there. How you achieve that is something entirely different. And the truth of it is that came in a bit of a bolt from the blue in mid-October last year, where I suddenly thought, okay, well, what if we do this and this and this? And the answer is that's come together beautifully. It's harder to pull all the strands together than I first thought it might be. But I can tell you at the moment, we've got the first 3 of the 4 fully funded for 2 years already. And the calls and emails I'm waiting for at the moment will get us into the 4th. And then beyond that, to pay the mentors that will be joining us to help us along that way as well. And that's going to be another interesting part of this. It's part of it we've not been very clear about publicly. There are going to be a lot of other names involved in DSC Academy, many of whom you'll know for a wide variety of reasons, that will also be paid to be part of this. This is a truly professional thing. We're looking potentially in year 2 and 3 for a professional accreditation to it. We're talking to trade bodies about what we're doing, and that seems to have been welcomed. From my point of view, it's sort of the day job coming back. The last decade of my time was spent outside of government, but in other big organisations, building and developing big teams of young professionals in communications in this case. And I did that twice with big organisations in the UK, where you walk in, there is pretty much nobody, and the job is we want, and in one case it was 27 people, and the other case it was 40, to do these big things, and we need to do it quite quickly. So it teaches you quite a lot about how to find talent and how to nurture talent. And in the case of the 4 people that have joined us, they're with us for 4 very, very different reasons. Some of which are private, some of which are blindingly obvious. You and Wayne, you'll be hearing and seeing an awful lot more of.
Yep, I know Ewan.
Ewan's going to be awesome. And I'll tell you exactly how Ewan got the gig. He got the gig because at a time when some of the social media stuff was taking off, he was out there, he was making a contribution in a positive way, not leading with opinion, but leading with things that he thought added colour and added depth to stories and to debating points. And I found that quite refreshing. It's not one of those, how can I put it? It's not one of those look at me accounts. Okay, it's he's trying to help his fellow enthusiasts get more out of it by introducing them to facts and to pictures and to things that maybe they didn't have access to. And I have to tell you, we've been utterly delighted with his level of engagement. He's the one of the 4 that is full time. So he's now on board as Stephen's de facto junior. He'll be at a lot of races this year, and it's going to be interesting to see just exactly where we can take his skill set. We know exactly what he needs. He knows exactly what he needs, and it's drawing together these kind of disparate people from the UK, from the US, and from Canada in the case of Natalie, drawing these people together, finding where they fit well, and then pushing them a little, get them out of the comfort zone, introduce them to things that they've not experienced before, introduce them to people at a level in the sport that they've not experienced before. And that can be quite intimidating for a young person, particularly if you've not got a whole lot of work experience behind you, because it doesn't matter where you've studied, coming to something in a working environment is very different. And what we're basically doing is putting an arm around them, metaphorically taking them by the hand, and introducing them to a whole range of aspects of this business and this sport that I don't think in any other way they'd have the opportunity to experience. One of the things we're doing, by the way, with every partner we've got in the academy, commercial partner got in the academy, is they have to provide us with learning opportunities for our trainees. And what does that look like? It looks in one case like at least one of them, and possibly more than one, will be behind the scenes with a hypercar you haven't seen yet. One of them will spend some time, possibly more, will spend some time shadowing race control at an international race meeting. They'll sit in with the stewards and watch how those things are dealt with. They'll sit with team owners and team managers to work out how budgets are put together for a Pro-Am team. It's that thing about, I guess the way I come to this one is, you and I are both familiar with the myriad of things when that insert name of race car comes up for sale and somebody says, if we all put $100 in, we could have that.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's the difference between that, which is fine and it's fun, and the reality of racing it. And that means things like lifed parts and logistics and wages and catering and testing and insurance and all of that, and damage and all of those kind of things. So they're going to be exposed to people who can give them real examples of that. And they'll do all of that and still work beyond that for another couple of years before they're ever given the opportunity to write an opinion column.
Yeah, going back to the Dale Sports Car Academy, you were talking about Ewan as well. The thing I liked, I think it was last year for the Spar 24. He published an article. I think I think he was working with let me check my notes. I think it was at Stella Motorsport.
He was. Yep. I'll tell you exactly how that happened. Exactly how it happened. So we'd had Ewan along to a couple of races. We knew that his writing was top notch. As always, you've got knowledge gaps you've got to fill. And the bit that Ewan needed help with was confidence. And it is that thing, I've been there, I'm actually, maybe not so much anymore, remarkably shy. And particularly if you're walking into a working environment for people that you recognise to be top of the tree, whether or not that's a Jensen Button or just the team managers and the boys and girls that they're wielding the spanners, it takes some guts to walk into the back of a working garage, quite often at the time when they don't want you there because things have gone wrong, and have the wherewithal to go and ask the question that needs to be asked and get the answer quickly. So that was one of the things that we always knew that was going to be something that he would have a problem with, and indeed that was something he had a problem with. How did we start to solve that? Well, you're absolutely right. We did send him to the Spa 24 Hours, but we didn't send him on the Wednesday for the cars going down into the town. We sent him the previous Saturday on the truck. So he literally went to the Spa 24 Hours with the truckie, on board the truck. It's a 2-3 day journey down there. And then he, with the truckie and the advance party, set up the garage. Why? Well, number one, it's part of the business you don't otherwise get to see, and that's a big part of what we're trying to do. But two, it gets you to just knock down a few of those walls and have a bit more confidence talking to some of the people that I can guarantee you will be a really important part of his career in 2, 5, 10, 20 years' time. I've got incredibly privileged access to our sport, but to this day, some of the most valued contacts I have in the sports are not team principals, team managers, drivers, managing directors. It's the guys who actually, and the girls, that go and do the jobs that make these cars run and make them safe, because they'll give you a perspective on this that you otherwise wouldn't get. And I think if you just go in and what we're interested in is just the shiny stuff, fine, but you miss out on so much. And, I think we are by nature social animals. And if I'm doing this because of passion, and I am, my presumption is that a lot of them are doing the same. So why would I not be seeking a social interaction with them? Because they're doing it for the same reasons I'm doing it, which is they've got other options. They're all highly skilled. They could go off and probably earn a lot more money doing other things. They choose not to because they love what they do. That's why I like talking to these boys and girls, and that's why we'll do the same with Natalie. We'll do the same with Mo. At some point they'll be exposed to that at some level, and there's all sorts of things coming through and some offers from some extraordinary people. They're going to get some amazing insights into parts of the sport.
Yeah, and then obviously Wayne was working with the Stella Motorsport as well. Did you notice anything about him, with his confidence afterwards? Did you notice he was a lot more, maybe, I don't know if hesitant's the right word, or shy? Did you notice he was a lot more kind of open?
He went into it. He went into it knowing full well what the game was. It wasn't like we'd had the conversation about where he needed the help, and I think the answer is yes. You'll see a step forward, but it's still different. Ewan will be with us in Qatar for the And that will be the first time we've ever pointed him in the direction of a factory garage in the FI World Endurance Championship. And trust me, that's different. That's very different. So, again, there's another step to be taken. But this is not a process of teach someone once and they've learned everything. It's a progressive point here. And there's very easy ways to do it. In Ewan's case, I think he knows what's coming. And that's, okay, we've got a couple of hours. There's the paddock. There's 36 cars there with, 100 plus drivers. Go and find me a story. Go and find me a paddock note. Go and find something. And the key to this is quite simple. There's a lot of what we do that could be done from an office like this, a room like yours, by watching. If we're going to spend the money to put someone on a plane to go to Qatar, Imola, Spa, Le Mans, then there has to be a reason for putting them there. So they're not going to that race to write a session report. They could do that from the comfort of their home. They're going to add value, to write news, to put together feature ideas and interviews, to contribute to a greater whole. And bear in mind, for us, it's not just Daily Sports Car, it's Racer as well. And that's Stephen's gig. He is Racer's WC correspondent. So, and all of that, by the way, is not cut and pasted from one to the other. It's rewritten, and some of it is exclusive on either side. So there's a huge amount going on to a huge number of people. But in case of Ewan, I would expect to see over the course of this next 12 months that we'll see some major changes in his ability and willingness to engage with people on levels which he probably wouldn't have dreamed of. Yeah, he will be one-on-one with some extraordinary people this year. It's, to me, part of the joy of being able to do this, is stopping that point of... I guess in my era, it was, okay, I'm sitting in ID Hospitality and someone's put a cup of coffee in front of me and this is Alan McNish or this is Tom Christensen. And that's quite a wake-up call. And I think it will be the same for all of these guys. And I don't want it ever to become something they're blasé about. I want it to be special, but I want them to get the best for themselves and for us out of it. And to do that, you've sort of got to go into suspension of belief. With me, I'm way beyond that. It's, as you'll have gathered from my general style, is that I massively admire particularly what the drivers do. I can't do that, okay? I've said 1,000,001 times, when people offer, and they still do, mad people that they are, offer me the opportunity to drive a race car, and I always say, my answer to that is, look, there's two reasons why I don't do it. The first reason is I've got no talent, and the second reason is, for some reason, that doesn't scare me. And, that's not a very good mix. But I'm absolutely respectful of their record, of their ability, and all of that stuff. But what I'm not a respecter of is the glass wall that sometimes gets put around talent, which is why you'll hear me, let's be blunt, ripping the piss, which is what I do it. I expect people to do it to me. I think it makes for better interactions professionally, socially, publicly. And I think most people understand why it is that I do that, because what I'm trying to do is to get these absolute heroes slightly off their guard to give us better insight. And that's quietly discussed. But, it's very real. The interactions you hear are not in any way scripted. We're trying to get the best out of each other by just ruffling feathers a little bit. And they'll do it with me, and I love it. I absolutely love it. But yeah, with Ewan, yes, we've seen some changes and we expect to see more.
That's great to hear, and I'm definitely going to keep an eye on how the academy works out, because there's Ewan, and then I think you've got, I can't remember his second name. Is it Mohammed? I think
it's Mo Raymond.
Sorry.
So Mo Raymond is with us effectively as a freelance in development. So Mo will be doing British GT and GT Open with us this year, and those deals are done. So he's fully funded. And then we've got Natalie, who is middle of her academic career. She's doing a master's degree. She's in Glasgow at the moment, doing a semester in the UK, but her university is Toronto, and news to come quite quickly, I hope, of exactly what her programme is going to be. It's something a little bit different, but she will be working with and for us in North America. But while she's in Europe, we're taking the opportunity of exposing her to a couple of major events, and we're talking about that to her right now. And the fourth one, as I say, is a bit of a different one. That's Jonathan Grace, and he fulfills kind of two objectives. He gives us something we haven't currently got, and he can operate both as a doer and as a mentor in doing that. But he has got wishes to take his career in directions as well, and we and I can help him with that. So he's both a trainee in one regard, but a mentor in another regard. So he's a bit different, but it's all about basically making this better, giving it a bit of a freshen up, but more particularly starting to put some shape around what Daily Sports Car is going to look like in 2, 3, 4 years' time.
And obviously moving on to real life motorsport as well, and yeah, looking back to the 2025 W World Endurance Championship season, how did you feel that it was? Did you think was it exciting, or as you think it, or as you thought it would be, or was it kind of maybe at some points during the season it was maybe not as you expected? I know it's something I don't like to talk about, balance of performance, but I normally have a rule not to talk about it because I prefer to keep out of that drama. But yeah, I was discussing it with another podcaster, Nicole from the Orange Flag podcast, and we were kind of discussing that it was maybe not consistent enough.
Well, I think the answer is, if you look at what they tried to do and the proposal they put together, they did what they said they were going to do. The problem is that on some occasions it didn't do what it was supposed to do, which to provide close racing. And I think that was the disappointment for some of the season. I certainly don't go down the road of it's all a fix. I think that's absolute arrant nonsense. And, anybody that reads and listens to what I do will understand that I have some pretty well-formed views on people offering opinion on these things. And it's one of the reasons why we're looking to educate the people that we've got. I want the future commentators, I mean that with a small c, of sports car racing, to understand what goes into these systems. They are furiously complicated. So the answer is, do I think the right team won? Yes, I absolutely do. Do I think it was ideally delivered at all points? No, but I don't think it can be, is the honest answer. I operate in all sorts of other areas as well, and we've had SRO, who are often lauded for their balance of performance standards. I've been to a number of GT3 races which have seen, manufacturer A or manufacturer B run away with things, and that was predicted by their opposition earlier in the week. So it's not an easy thing to do because you're dealing with very, very clever people. Yep. What I would say about balance of performance and Ferrari specifically is they did not have a good second half of 2024, which meant that they started this brand new system from a low ebb. You couldn't say that about Porsche or Toyota, both of whom finished pretty much on a high, with the exception of Porsche throwing away the final race, which meant that they started with a less good balance of performance judgment because of the performance they displayed. If there was a mistake, I think it wasn't a dynamic enough system. But even if it had been, you'd still have got people moaning and groaning that in some way it was it was doing this. The bit that irritates me is blah blah blah. IMSA got it, did it a lot better. No, they didn't. They absolutely didn't.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100% with that.
I mean, I think what we saw with both on both sides, if you like, with RLL in IMSA and with Toyota specifically in WC, were two potentially high achieving teams that basically blew it. RLL, it became almost comedic. Quickest car, and then strategic blunders that would just throw it away in a pit stop or on a call on a safety car. Toyota, I mean, at times they were talking themselves out of a championship before they were even in it. And I had a conversation with a trusted colleague at Interlagos, where he was offering one opinion, I was offering a counterpoint, and it was like, oh no, to balance performance, no, sorry. But that was their single worst operational performance in any race in that programme's history, and at least part of the blame for that has to sit with team management, with the standard and the tone of the communication externally. I know, as someone whose job has been for many, many years to motivate a team, if I come out as being defeatist, that is not going to have a positive effect on a high-performing team. And, when you get to stuff like Fuji with that basic error after the safety car, not pitting the car again, throwing a race away, and a very important race for them, I think the answer here is, it's an easy answer to give that BOP was the biggest problem. BOP is it's a gateway and a problem at the same time. Going to be interested to see what we hear from them. Notably, we've heard nothing about it at all, and I don't think that's an accident. What I would say is this: with balance of performance, you need a fair, at least partially transparent, if not fully transparent, I don't think you can be fully transparent, system. And you need also, as the people who are responsible for that system, to take a step away from it and realise there are specifically three groups you will never win with. Okay? You will never win with the group of people who just farm negativity. There is a sadness in media that a negative story always seems to get more than a positive story. You're never going to win with people who just don't like balanced performance. Okay? And they're a self-declaring audience. Why we listen to them when talking about the qualitative part of it, when they've declared themselves as being haters in the first place, I don't know. And then you've got the third group, who are the group that almost overanalyze. I put it in a different way. The ones that will have to always be the cleverest guy in the room. Doesn't matter what explanation you give, doesn't matter what data you put forward, there's always another question, there's always another layer that prevents you from ever getting to the point where you're allowed to feel as if it's successful. I think both sides of that debate can come together and should come together with one aim, which is, why are we talking this down right now? It's astonishing and amazing. We've got incredibly short memories, and right now we should be getting behind the minutiae, not the overview. The overview is, we are not dealing with a sport run by people who are manipulating results. That's just not true. Okay, if what you've got is an issue of communication, let's deal with that. If what you've got is an issue of methodology, let's deal with that. If what you've got is an issue of presentation, let's deal with that. But let's not come to a conclusion that this whole idea is failed, because that's simply not true.
Yeah, and I was also thinking about the 20 Le Mans last year, and when the number 6 Porsche Penske Motorsport I think they got disqualified, not disqualified, but put to the back of the grid for a technicality. Sorry, technicality.
Rear wing.
The rear wing. Yeah. Some of the stuff I was reading, people were saying, "Oh, the ACO don't want Porsche to win," and I'm like, "Are you hearing yourself?"
Well, it's a shame, because I love Porsche. I think Porsche have been standouts for my entire career. And the programme has been absolutely awesome. You've seen the difference that Penske can make in IMSA, putting a car that, is known to be quite a difficult beast into a position where it's been dominant. But anybody who described the number 6's Le Mans as perfect wasn't watching the same race as I was watching. The reality here is it's a lot easier to rewrite history after the event. Okay, in this instance, they had a chance. They didn't win. To allow an audience to come to a conclusion that what the 83 crew did at Le Mans last year was anything other than extraordinary, I think is dishonest. I think it's disrespectful. And it very specifically is not what I expect from sports car racing. That post-season, and particularly post-decision from Porsche, for that to be the narrative that they chose, I thought was extremely disappointing. And by the way, I've told them, we've had this conversation at a really high level, and whether or not they liked or enjoyed that conversation, not really my problem. My view was, I know why they did it. I understand why they did it corporately. But the reality is they chose to put something in front of the public that was not the reason why that decision was made. I stand by the way, I think they made the wrong decision.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Looking back as well, you have to give props to like the number 6 the car as well, considering they started at the back in class, and to come from the back in class and finish second. I think that was an absolutely extraordinary effort as well. Especially when you look at Kevin Esser's opening stint, was it three stunts or something like that? To come from the back of the class and finish his stint in, what was it, P3, P4 or something like that? That was just unbelievable.
Ultimately, we're dealing with people of a very, very high level, and I want to be able to look at that and think, yeah, this is what might have been. They came that 14 seconds. 14 seconds. It was. We had this extraordinary moment with the race at Le Mans, where we were well into the last hour of the race, and the thought occurred to me. I think at that stage we had 9 cars on the lead lap.
Yep.
And the thought occurred to me, is that a record? Hadn't considered it at all, and we're 45 minutes before the end of the race. And guess what I was doing whilst commentating? I was going through Wikipedia every single race from 1923 onwards to find out what the previous record was. And astonishingly, the previous record was 2. Okay, absolutely mind-blowing. So, and by the way, by no means have those results been because we've had long yellows just before the end of the race. And in the case of last year, we fundamentally didn't. So we are in a different era of the sport. And I think it's quite simple. It's either an era you're enjoying or it's an era you're not enjoying. I just ask that if actually people are commenting on this from a position of not watching the actual racing, please don't. Please watch what happens and how it happens, and listen to what the guys like Anthony are telling you, and for that matter, what the guys in the garages are telling Bruce and Shay, and make a decision based on the quality of the racing, the quality of what the crew are doing on pit lane, the quality of the strategy that's coming out of it, because it's all got a part to play. And if actually what you're hiding behind is 3 little letters, God, you're missing out.
Yeah, I agree 100% with that. Obviously, like I say, I don't like to get involved in BOP discussions because it just creates too much drama, and it's just you get silly little. I don't like to swear, but you get silly little like bits fights and that. It's like, just it's like what the. I've said it before in a group chat that I'm part of on Twitter or X. I always ask, why do you not just watch the racing, ignore the drama, enjoy the racing? Is it too hard? Is it too much? Is it too hard to ask for?
The answer here is we've got so many storylines, so many things that are happening, and for anybody to be dismissive of the multi-layered aspect of this, it's frustrating. I mean, okay, look, I'm a massive bobble hat, massive anorak about sports car racing, and I've been privileged to have more access to understanding and to ask questions than many people do. But I'm not a fan, and it doesn't matter which sport it is, of people just taking pot shots and sniping. Okay, at the moment, I look at what's going on with Formula One. I have no idea how they're going to solve the massive problems they seem to have with these new cars, but I'm sure they will solve them, and I'm sure the stories about how they've solved them will be engaging if we're ever allowed to know. And I think it's the same with this, is we've got a whole lot of teams and cars with some significant differences this year. One difference for everybody bar Genesis in the top class is they've all got another year of experience. And what that should mean is that racing should be harder and closer.
Yep, I agree with that. And then basically, I've got some fan questions or questions from people that wanted to ask as well. The first one is, what was your favourite Le Mans that you covered or have covered in the past? So this could be like in the past or more recently.
The honest answer is 2023. It was a great race, but better than that, it was an absolutely stunning event. And you're there for a long time. And when you've got that buzz around the happening, you can't fail but to be taken up in that. 1995, the first time I was there, it opened my eyes to something. No doubt about that whatsoever. We had the fabulous year with, Lotterer, Traluet and Fessler fending off what seemed like a massed horde of Peugeots.
Yep.
That was fabulous. But 2023, with the top class being in such rude health, with all of the stuff going on around the centenary of the race, an event I absolutely adore. For me, that was a very special thing to be involved in.
And then the second question is going back to, I believe it was Le Mans the 2022 edition of the 24 Hours of Le Mans. The question is, and I apologise if I start bursting out laughing,
okay.
What was the alternative to cake at 2:30 in the morning?
Musical instruments. It was musical instruments. There is the longer clip is there. It is part of the wonder of working with the amazing Martin Haven. Martin is one of my very favourite people on the planet. Quite aside from, he's an extraordinary professional. He is the ultimate team player. He makes Le Mans fun for all of us. Remember, it's a doubling up of the team. Makes Le Mans fun for all of us. Coming into working with Martin in the TV side after the years before that I'd been elsewhere, it was... you were able to relax and do the best you possibly could.
Yep.
And he's incredibly generous in terms of the time he gives you to be you, the time that, the opportunities that he gives you to do the things you want to do at the times you want to do them. But at 2:30 in the morning, he is extraordinary. And I'll be honest with you, Ryan, I wouldn't have him any other way.
Yeah, I mean, I have to ask a question about that myself. How do you deal with that sort of thing? That's like, say if it's something that you didn't expect to hear. What was your reaction at the time? Obviously, I guess you wanted to burst out laughing, but you've got to remain professional at the same time.
Well, I mean, if you listen to any WEC broadcast, any one of them, okay, there are two basic themes that you'll almost certainly hear at some point. One of them is Martin or I reminding Anthony that he's never won Le Mans. And the other is that you will hear the words, "No, it's not that." That is
I remember that.
Yeah, so it's. I have to say, when I listen back and watch back that clip, and it's presented to me on my timeline regularly, I'm not unimpressed that I did manage to keep it on the island. How? I have absolutely no idea. But yeah, it's the funnier one was actually the John Brooks is dead one, because with that I'd literally just woken up. I'd come back into the booth, drenched, because obviously it was tipping it down with rain.
Yep.
And typically what I will do before I go on shift, because at Le Mans we have 6 broadcast positions, I will take up a spare pair of headphones with a cup of tea and just listen, so I can listen to what's been going on to the point where I come on. And I think I'd had those headphones on for about 25 seconds when he said it. Now, John is an ex-business partner of mine, a good friend. I know damn well he's not dead. And it was, as I think it was Ant Davidson said, he said, "I've never seen someone scramble to go on air in such a desperate fashion ever before, and likely never won't again in the future." And it was, yeah, it's, look, the night hours at Le Mans are a very special time to be broadcasting. It's a very special audience, and I hope we never get to the stage where somebody comes in and wags the finger and says you can't do that. We're trusted with a long time on air. You think a short race for me is 4 hours, which means about a 5-hour live broadcast. Not many other places do 5 hours of live broadcasting, and at Le Mans we're regularly doing, I think we worked it out, it's something like 47 hours of live broadcasting from Wednesday onwards. And Le Mans itself is a 26-hour live broadcast. And last year, and I think again this coming year, there'll be 2 parallel broadcasts for parts of it. Because if you're listening to the app or watching the app, it's one thing. If you're watching the international feed, it's something else. So there's a lot goes on. And it's not at all surprising that at times fatigue can get the better of them.
Yeah, I think what Martin did at the time there. Again, I'm part of a group chat on Twitter, and yeah, I think we would call that sort of thing. I don't know if unhinged is the right term to use, but
oh yeah.
But yeah, lastly as well, before we wrap up, there was a question I wanted to ask as well for people that want to get into like media, like when it comes to sports car racing, and say,
Yep.
I've recently just started getting back into podcasting after listening to a podcast that you're part of. This Week in Sports Cars?
Yeah, the Week in Sports Cars.
Also,
that's been going since. So it's an IndyCar podcast from 2016. Sports car podcast started in Daytona in 2018, and I was just actually doing some work on that. So far, I think I'm at 14 million downloads of that,
okay.
Which are a niche marketplace we're very proud of. Lot more to come with the Week in Sports Cars, by the way. And
yeah, as I say, I just recently got back into doing the like podcasts as well after a 3-year break. Sorry, just because of like ill health and kind of health reasons basically. And I think it was the start of this year that I obviously listened to your podcast as well, and also listened to a friend. Hopes she doesn't mind me mentioning her name. Nicole over at the Orange Flag podcast. They listened to her.
I spent an hour at Daytona with Nicole talking about podcasting.
Listening to both of your podcasts, it basically kind of gave me that motivation or a kick up the backside, if you like, to get back into doing it. And yeah, I have to say as well, thank you for getting me back, giving me that motivation to get back into doing it, because it's something I enjoy doing. I mean, I'm not the best at doing it by any means, but it's something I enjoy doing, chatting to fellow fans and chatting to people like yourself, and obviously Nicole as well, who's always has been a big help with advice and kind of like what to do, like basically this is what you should do, or you don't do that, or do this. So yeah, thank you for that. It's given me that motivation to get back into it.
Great. I mean, from me to you, and anybody else that's listening, look, it's never been easier to play a part. And if my view would be, where you start is find a community that works for you. You know, if what you want to be is a moaning, miserable person that's critical of everything, Formula One, that's for you. For sports car racing, there's so many really positive communities, whether it's chat rooms, whether or not it's Reddit, whether or not it's Discord, whatever it is. So many communities where you can get just a different layer out of it. And the reality there is, it has never been easier to get your voice across if that's what you choose to do. I'd just say this. Remember, knowledge is power. Okay? If you don't know, ask. It is this... I can remember quite early on in my media career with Malcolm, doing sports car racing stuff, and he gave me one of those little pieces of sage advice. That's how I'll leave you tonight, which is, when you've got a point of view, ask questions, don't make statements, because you'll learn a lot. There's a great example of that in something where I think a lot of us had quite an extreme response to, and that was the huge accident with Alf Aaron at Bathurst. Don't make statements, ask questions. Without asking questions, we wouldn't have known there was no radio in the AMG. We wouldn't have known a whole range of other things that were going on in the background. It doesn't mean to say there aren't questions to be asked. There are questions to be asked. They need to show a way forward. But just coming out and stating what seems to be the blindingly obvious, I think, does a disservice to everybody involved. Nobody wanted those things to happen, and everybody's invested in making sure they don't happen again. So that's the way I'd leave it, which is ask questions, don't make statements.
And then the last one, before we finish up, it's for me, because I'm planning to make my first trip over to the Rolex 24 in Daytona next year. So, and I've kind of want to like go up to drivers and see, like, not do an interview, but maybe ask some quick questions, say like podcast questions. How would you say I should approach that? Is there any particular way I should go about that, or is it more just kind of, if I see a driver walking about in the paddock, for example, would it be okay to stop them and ask them a couple of questions, say like just for like a minute, 1 minute, 2 minutes, something like that?
It's they're people, you know, and I think my answer would be respectful of their time. If they tell you they've not got the time, be respectful of it.
Yeah.
Learn where you can find them is the other thing. It's not always easy at Daytona. And just, as I say, make sure you're asking those questions when perhaps they're just at rest, rather than going from one place to another. Going from one place to another, usually in a hurry, and if they're not in a hurry, they'll probably tell you they're in a hurry. But if you're respectful and catch them at the right moment, I'd say you're going to get about a 75% hit rate.
That sounds good. Well, Graham, first of all, thank you for your time. You've been an absolute superstar. It's been great to have you on, and I look forward to checking out the more content, daily sports car content from yourself, and also keeping an eye on the academy and how that pans out, and just looking forward to listening to the This Week in Sports Car podcast as well. So again,
lots to come this year.
On.
It's going to be a busy old year, and I think we're going to get some great racing in Europe and further afield. So stick with us, whether or not it's with what I do in terms of the writing front or what we do in terms of the TV front. I think we're going to have a hell of a year.
Great stuff. And before we wrap up, if anyone wants to follow the podcast, you can follow it at the Start Racing Cast on Instagram. You can follow on Twitter or X at the Start Racing Cast, and you can listen to the podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. But thank you for listening. For me and Graham, we will see you next time, or you might listen to us next time. So take care.